Leadership is not something we are born knowing how to do. It's not an instinct that just appears one day when we're given a title, a team, or a corner office. Leadership has to be learned, just like any other skill. It takes time, effort, humility, and most importantly, the willingness to grow. Too often, people assume that leadership is about being in charge, about having authority, making decisions, and setting direction. But leadership isn't a position, it's a practice. It's a responsibility to care for the people who are in our charge, not simply to be the one in charge. And that mindset doesn't come naturally. It must be learned. Think about it. We spend years learning how to do our jobs. We study, we train, we practice. But how much time do we spend learning how to inspire others, how to listen, how to build trust, how to make people feel safe to contribute their best? Very little. Yet these are the very things that define great leadership. Leadership is a skill, not a title. It's not something that automatically comes with a promotion, a position, or a corner office. It's something that must be developed, practiced, and refined over time. A title may give someone authority, but it doesn't make them a leader. Real leadership is earned through behavior, through character, and through the consistent choice to serve others before oneself. Many people believe that once they reach a certain position, leadership will naturally follow. But leadership doesn't come with a job description. It comes from how we treat people, how we inspire them, and how we make them feel. A leader without empathy, patience, or vision is simply a manager of tasks, not a mover of hearts. The ability to lead doesn't come from hierarchy. It comes from influence. And influence is built, not granted. When leadership is treated as a title, it becomes about control. But when it's treated as a skill, it becomes about growth. Skills are practiced, refined, and strengthened through repetition and feedback. The same applies to leadership. It requires listening deeply, communicating clearly, and understanding people's motivations and fears. It requires the courage to make tough decisions while protecting trust. It's about creating an environment where others feel valued, not used. Leadership is a human skill, one that demands self-awareness and emotional intelligence. It's about being able to read a room, sense morale, and understand what your team needs to thrive. A true leader can inspire confidence during uncertainty and create calm during chaos. That kind of presence doesn't come from authority. It comes from learning to manage one's own emotions, biases, and reactions. Leaders who master themselves can lead others with authenticity. Great leadership is not about having followers, but about creating more leaders. It's about empowering others to rise, even if it means they eventually surpass you. A title might give someone the ability to tell others what to do, but a leader with skill gives others the belief that they can do it. That's the difference between compliance and commitment. People may obey authority, but they only give their hearts to those who make them feel seen and supported. The danger of mistaking leadership for a title is that it creates ego-driven behavior. When someone believes their leadership is automatic, they stop listening. They stop learning. They become more focused on being right than on doing what's right. The result is disconnection. Teams that operate out of fear instead of trust. Workplaces filled with silence instead of collaboration. Leadership as a skill, on the other hand, demands humility. It means admitting mistakes, asking for feedback, and understanding that every person you lead can teach you something. Leadership is a lifelong practice. The best leaders know they are never finished learning how to lead. They observe, adapt, and grow. They seek mentors, reflect on failures, and celebrate others' successes more than their own. They don't rely on titles to validate their worth. Their credibility comes from their consistency. Their teams trust them because they've proven, through action, that they care about more than results. They care about people. In the end, leadership as a skill transforms both the leader and the led. It builds cultures where people feel safe to take risks, where ideas are shared freely, and where purpose drives performance. Titles fade. Structures change, but the skill of leadership endures. It's a daily choice to learn, to listen, and to lead with empathy and courage. The ones who understand that leadership must be practiced, not proclaimed, are the ones who truly make an impact that lasts. Leadership requires continuous learning because the world, people, and challenges are constantly changing. What worked yesterday may not work today, and what inspires one group may fail to motivate another. True leaders understand that their growth never stops. They know that leadership is not a destination to arrive at, but a journey to travel. One that demands curiosity, reflection, and the humility to admit there's always more to learn. The moment a leader believes they have mastered leadership is the moment they begin to decline. Complacency is the enemy of growth. Great leaders stay students of life. They listen, observe, and adapt. They seek out different perspectives, not to confirm what they already believe, but to challenge their assumptions. They read, they ask questions, they learn from mistakes, and they stay open to change. Their power doesn't come from knowing everything, it comes from their willingness to keep learning. In every stage of leadership, there are new lessons. Early on, the lesson might be about understanding people and building trust. Later, it may be about developing vision, managing conflict, or guiding others through uncertainty. Each situation tests a different part of a leader's skill set. Patience, empathy, communication, resilience. Those who keep learning grow stronger. Those who stop learning repeat the same mistakes and lose the trust of those they lead. Continuous learning also means being willing to learn from everyone, not just those above. Every person, regardless of position, offers a lesson if one is willing to pay attention. The best leaders learn from their teams, from their failures, from their critics, and even from their competitors. They understand that leadership is not about appearing perfect, but about constantly improving. This mindset creates a culture where learning is valued, and where growth becomes a shared goal rather than an individual pursuit. In a world that evolves rapidly, leadership without learning quickly becomes outdated. New technologies, new generations, and new challenges require leaders who can adapt their thinking. Static leadership creates stagnant organizations. Dynamic leadership, grounded in continuous learning, builds environments that are flexible, innovative, and forward-thinking. The willingness to learn keeps leaders relevant, relatable, and effective in inspiring those around them. Learning as a leader also means learning about oneself. It's about understanding one's strengths, weaknesses, triggers, and values. Self-awareness is the foundation of effective leadership. Leaders who are self-aware make better decisions because they understand how their behavior affects others. They can recognize when ego interferes, when fear holds them back, and when pride prevents progress. Every moment of self-reflection is a form of learning, a chance to become more intentional, compassionate, and grounded. Continuous learning requires vulnerability. It means admitting you don't have all the answers, being willing to listen, and sometimes unlearning what you thought was right. It means stepping outside your comfort zone and facing the discomfort of growth. This vulnerability doesn't weaken a leader. It humanizes them. It builds trust because people respect leaders who are authentic enough to keep evolving. The best leaders are lifelong learners. They don't chase perfection, they pursue progress. They understand that learning doesn't end with a lesson. It lives in every experience. Every relationship, every challenge. They read, they reflect, they adapt, and they never lose their curiosity. Leadership is not about being the smartest in the room, but about being the most willing to learn from everyone in it. In the end, continuous learning is what keeps leadership alive. It keeps leaders humble, adaptable, and human. It allows them to grow alongside the people they serve and to guide others through change with wisdom and grace. Leadership requires continuous learning because only those who keep learning can keep leading. Connection matters more than control because leadership is ultimately about people, not power. The true measure of leadership isn't how much authority one holds, but how deeply one connects with others. Control may produce short-term obedience, but connection builds long-term loyalty, trust, and commitment. When people feel seen, heard, and valued, they give more of themselves. Not because they have to, but because they want to. That's where real influence lies. Many leaders fall into the trap of control. They believe that maintaining order, setting strict rules, or micromanaging every detail will guarantee results. But control creates fear, and fear kills creativity, innovation, and initiative. When people feel controlled, they focus on survival, doing just enough to avoid trouble. They stop thinking for themselves. They stop taking risks. Control might get compliance, but it never earns commitment. Connection, on the other hand, does the opposite. It invites people to engage. It builds a sense of belonging and shared purpose. When a leader takes time to understand their people, their struggles, strengths, and motivations, they form relationships rooted in trust. And trust is what allows teams to move together with confidence, even when things are uncertain. So it gives people the courage to speak up, share ideas, and push boundaries without fear of judgment or punishment. True leadership is about connection because humans are emotional beings. People don't just follow instructions, they follow feelings. They are drawn to leaders who make them feel safe, respected, and inspired. A connected leader creates an environment where people can bring their full selves to work. Their ideas, their creativity, and their passion. Control suppresses authenticity, connection encourages it. And when people can show up as their true selves, they perform at their best. Connection also builds resilience. In times of crisis, people don't look to the person who controls them, they look to the person who understands them. A leader who has invested in genuine relationships can rally their team through uncertainty because trust has already been established. They don't need to demand loyalty. It's freely given. People don't just follow instructions, they follow belief. And belief comes from connection. The difference between control and connection is the difference between fear and respect. Control uses authority to force action. Connection uses empathy to inspire it. Control says, do as I say. Connection says, let's figure this out together. Control isolates a leader from their team, while connection unites them. It builds bridges instead of barriers. It creates space for conversation instead of silence. A leader focused on connection listens more than they speak. They ask questions not to judge, but to understand. They make people feel that their voice matters. This kind of leadership transforms a workplace from a place of duty into a place of purpose. It turns a group of individuals into a team that genuinely cares for one another and for the mission they share. Connection doesn't mean lack of structure or accountability. It means leading with empathy before authority. It means earning respect through understanding, not demanding it through fear. Control can make people follow orders. Connection makes them believe in the vision. And when people believe, they bring their best effort, creativity, and heart. In the end, leadership that relies on control may achieve efficiency, but leadership rooted in connection creates excellence. It transforms workplaces into communities and managers into mentors. The greatest leaders don't seek to control others, they seek to connect with them. Because it's through connection, not control, that people grow. Teams thrive, and lasting impact is made. Leadership is about responsibility over recognition. It's not about being seen, praised, or celebrated. It's about being accountable for the people, the mission, and the impact entrusted to you. True leaders understand that the weight of leadership is carried quietly. They don't lead to be admired, they lead to serve. Recognition might feel rewarding, but responsibility is what defines character. It's what separates those who want the spotlight from those who want to make a difference. In a world where visibility is often mistaken for value, it's easy to believe that leadership is about being known. Social media, awards, and titles can create the illusion that recognition equals impact. But the truth is, leadership happens most powerfully in the moments no one sees. In the hard decisions, the quiet sacrifices, and the times when you choose what's right over what's popular. Leadership isn't about personal glory, it's about collective good. It's about doing what needs to be done, even if no one claps for it. Taking responsibility means owning both success and failure. It's easy to take credit when things go right, but true leaders step forward when things go wrong. They don't blame their team, the system, or circumstance. They accept accountability because they understand that leadership is not about image, it's about integrity. A leader's credibility is built in how they respond to challenges, not how they celebrate achievements. When people see that their leader takes responsibility, they learn to do the same. It creates a culture of trust, ownership, and respect. Recognition fades quickly, but responsibility builds lasting impact. The praise of others is temporary, yet the lives touched through responsible leadership can echo far beyond a career. Responsibility requires making decisions that might never be appreciated. Choosing the harder path, protecting people's well-being, or standing by values when it costs something. These choices rarely make headlines, but they shape legacies that endure. Leaders who chase recognition often lose sight of purpose. They start leading for attention rather than intention. They measure success by applause instead of alignment with their values. When recognition becomes the goal, ego takes over, and leadership turns into performance. But responsibility keeps leaders grounded. It reminds them that their role is not to be admired, but to make things better. For their people, their organization, and the greater good. Great leadership often goes unnoticed because it focuses on others' growth, not self-promotion. The best leaders build others up, give credit away, and take blame in silence. They celebrate their team's victories while shouldering their struggles privately. They understand that the true reward of leadership is seeing others succeed, not seeing their own name praised. Their fulfillment comes from impact, not acknowledgement. Responsibility also requires courage. It means making unpopular decisions, having hard conversations, and standing firm when it would be easier to please the crowd. It's about doing what's necessary, not what's convenient. Sometimes it means walking alone for a while, but that's the price of leadership rooted in principle. Those who seek recognition may compromise their integrity for approval. Those who choose responsibility hold steady even when it costs them admiration. The irony is that leaders who focus on responsibility often end up being the most respected in the long run. People remember how they made them feel, how they stood for something greater than themselves, and how they led with humility and purpose. Recognition may bring attention, but responsibility brings trust, and trust is the foundation of real leadership. In the end, leadership isn't about who gets the credit, it's about who takes the weight. It's not about shining brighter than others, but helping others shine. Responsibility over recognition isn't just a principle. It's a mindset that transforms leadership from an act of ambition into an act of service. And in that service lies the truest form of greatness. Humility fuels growth because it keeps leaders open to learning, feedback, and change. Without humility, leadership becomes stagnant, a performance driven by ego rather than purpose. True growth, both personal and professional, begins the moment we accept that we don't know everything. Humility allows leaders to stay curious, to listen deeply, and to recognize that wisdom is not found in appearing right, but in being willing to learn what's right. Many people mistake humility for weakness, when in truth, it is one of the greatest strengths a leader can possess. It takes immense confidence to admit that you don't have all the answers. It takes courage to say, I was wrong. Humility is not about thinking less of yourself, it's about thinking of yourself less. It shifts focus from self-importance to collective progress. It transforms leadership from being about me to being about we. And that shift is what drives real, sustainable growth. When leaders lead with humility, they create space for others to contribute their ideas. They understand that no one person, no matter how experienced, has a monopoly on insight. Teams thrive in environments where every voice is valued, not just the loudest one. Humble leaders listen before they speak, ask questions instead of giving commands, and seek understanding rather than validation. This kind of leadership doesn't just grow individuals, it grows cultures of innovation, collaboration, and trust. Humility also allows leaders to see failure differently. Instead of treating mistakes as personal attacks, they view them as lessons. They understand that setbacks are part of the process and that growth often hides inside moments of discomfort. A leader who lacks humility will protect their ego, avoid risk, and blame others when things go wrong. But a humble leader takes ownership, learns, adapts, and moves forward stronger. Failure becomes feedback, not a flaw. Growth requires openness, and openness requires humility. Without it, leaders become defensive when challenged and blind to their own limitations. They surround themselves with people who agree rather than those who tell the truth. But humility invites honesty. It allows others to give feedback without fear. It fosters relationships built on respect, not hierarchy. Over time, this honesty becomes the foundation of trust. And trust is what enables growth at every level. Humility also keeps leaders grounded when success comes. It reminds them that achievement is rarely a solo effort. Every success story is built on the contributions of many mentors, supporters, and even critics. Humble leaders give credit where it's due, recognizing the efforts of others instead of claiming the spotlight for themselves. In doing so, they not only strengthen their teams, but also earn genuine respect. Recognition gained through humility lasts far longer than praise built on pride. The best leaders are learners first. They never stop seeking knowledge, even after years of experience. They know that every person they meet and every challenge they face holds a new lesson. Humility keeps their perspective wide, their mind open, and their heart teachable. It prevents arrogance from clouding judgment and helps them adapt to changing circumstances with grace. Humility is also deeply connected to empathy. When leaders are humble, they are able to see from others' perspectives. They become more patient, more understanding, and more willing to serve rather than dominate. This kind of leadership doesn't demand loyalty. It earns it. People naturally follow those who lead with respect, authenticity, and humility because they feel valued and understood. In the end, humility is not the absence of confidence. It's the presence of self-awareness. It allows leaders to stay strong without being rigid, decisive without being arrogant, and ambitious without losing compassion. Humility fuels growth because it creates room for improvement, collaboration, and wisdom. A humble leader never stops evolving, and in their continuous growth, they inspire others to do the same. Purpose inspires followership because people don't commit to leaders. They commit to what those leaders stand for. Titles can command obedience, but only purpose can spark devotion. When people feel connected to something larger than themselves, they move from compliance to commitment. They stop working just for rewards or recognition and start contributing because they believe in the mission. That belief is what transforms a group of individuals into a unified team that endures through challenges, uncertainty, and change. Every great movement, organization, or cause has been built not merely on strategy or structure, but on a clear and compelling purpose. Purpose gives direction when results aren't immediate. It gives meaning when the work is hard. It's the why that fuels perseverance. A leader who communicates purpose clearly doesn't need to push people. They pull them forward through inspiration. People follow because they want to, not because they have to. Without purpose, leadership becomes mechanical. Tasks get done, but passion disappears. People show up, but they don't show up with their hearts. They do what's required, not what's possible. But when purpose is present, the atmosphere changes. Energy rises, ideas flow, and people begin to care deeply about the outcome. Purpose gives everyone a reason to stretch beyond comfort and to give their best, even when no one is watching. A leader's job is not to motivate through fear or authority, but to connect others to meaning. When leaders articulate why their work matters and show how each person contributes to that bigger picture, they awaken a sense of belonging and pride. It's not about the paycheck, it's about the impact. People will endure pressure, long hours, and obstacles when they know their efforts serve a meaningful goal. Purpose turns ordinary work into a shared mission. Purpose-driven leadership also creates trust. When people see that their leaders' decisions are rooted in values rather than personal gain, they follow with confidence. They know that even when mistakes are made, the intent behind actions is pure. This authenticity builds loyalty. It tells people, You can believe in me because I believe in something bigger than me. That belief becomes contagious. It spreads through teams, influencing how they think, act, and support one another. In contrast, leaders who focus only on results often lose their people along the way. When the emphasis is solely on numbers or performance, people start feeling like tools rather than teammates. The moment they stop feeling valued, they disengage. Purpose does the opposite. It humanizes work. It reminds everyone why they started, who they're helping, and what difference they're making. When purpose leads, performance naturally follows. Purpose also gives courage. It helps leaders and their teams stand firm in the face of criticism or failure when the why is strong. The how can always be figured out. Purpose-centered teams are resilient because they draw strength from meaning, not just momentum. They understand that setbacks are temporary, but the mission endures. The most inspiring leaders are not those who demand followers, but those who serve a cause that others want to be part of. They speak to the heart, not just the mind. They remind people that their work matters, that they matter. Purpose transforms leadership from a position of power into a platform for impact. In the end, people follow leaders who give them something to believe in. They follow those who lead with clarity, conviction, and compassion. Purpose inspires followership because it connects human effort to human meaning. It turns direction into devotion and work into legacy. Leadership grounded in purpose doesn't just achieve goals. It ignites belief, and that belief is what carries everyone forward.